Prince William ruthlessly crossed out the name of Annabel Elliot, Queen Camilla's biological sister, from the senior personnel list of the Duchy of Cornwall right after he took over this asset portfolio worth $1.2 billion. This woman had held the exclusive interior design position for the royal family for the past 20 years, receiving millions of pounds in remuneration from the budget without having to go through any competitive bidding round. The dismissal decision was issued in the form of a brief announcement line in the annual financial report, without a word of thanks, without a farewell party, and completely lacking any discussion with King Charles III. Is this merely an administrative decision aimed at cutting costs for the apparatus, or is it the first shot in a plan to thoroughly purge all influence of Camilla's family that William has silently prepared since he was a boy witnessing his mother's pain? Will Queen Camilla be able to hold on to the status of the Parker Bowles family when the heir to the throne begins to use economic power to reclaim justice for the past? On September 8, 2022, the sky over Aberdeenshire County in England was grey as the first raindrops of the season began to fall on the oak groves around Balmoral Castle. At exactly 16:30, the vehicle bearing the royal standard quietly advanced through the main gate, carrying the official announcement regarding the passing of Queen Elizabeth II at the age of 96. This event immediately triggered a massive chain of power shifts within the House of Windsor. Prince Charles officially ascended the throne with the title of King Charles III, while control of the entire colossal fortune of the Duchy of Cornwall automatically transferred to his eldest son, Prince William, in strict accordance with statutory regulations dating back to the 14th century. 1 week after the funeral, William stepped into the management office of the Duchy in London for the first time in his capacity as the new Duke of Cornwall. The office at that time was flooded with personnel files and balance sheets accumulated from the time his father was still in power. Outside, all business operations, land leasing, and royalty collections from farms in the southwest region of England still proceeded normally as if nothing had changed. However, in the senior personnel list paid from the Duchy's budget, the name of Annabel Elliot appeared at the very top position in the interior design and maintenance section. This was the woman who had been hired by Charles since 2005, right after he married Camilla, without going through any public bidding process of the board of directors. To understand why William's decision carried such immense weight, it is necessary to clearly explain the isolated financial and legal mechanism of the Duchy of Cornwall. Imagine the Duchy of Cornwall like a colossal private real estate conglomerate, owning over 135,000 acres of land, forests, mineral mines, and thousands of rental houses stretching across 23 counties in the United Kingdom. This fortune does not belong to the state, does not belong to the government, and taxpayers have no right to interfere in its cash flow. The entire net profit gathered from these commercial activities, after deducting operational expenses, will be transferred straight into the personal account of the heir to the throne to support his private family. This mechanism stipulates that the new Duke of Cornwall possesses absolute self-determination, playing the role of a chairman and chief executive officer, holding total life and death power over the personnel apparatus. William did not need to ask permission from King Charles III, did not need to pass through the approval of the Prime Minister or the Cabinet to change any job position within the management system. This made the status of Annabel Elliot extremely vulnerable to changes at the upper echelon. When Charles acted as Duke, he used the Duchy's money to pay millions of pounds to his wife's sister under the guise of interior design fees, turning Cornwall into a financial tool directly funding Camilla's family network without anyone's oversight. Throughout the 20 years Charles held power, the payments destined for Annabel Elliot were executed covertly under categories of property repair expenses that the public was entirely unaware of. The first covert action took place in the summer of 2011 at the Highgrove Estate, when Charles's office secretly converted an agricultural development budget into expenses for purchasing antique furniture from Annabel's private shop. The second covert action appeared in 2021 when Camilla directly signed the approval of an internal memo demanding that all holiday cottage renovation projects of the Duchy in the Scilly Isles must utilise the exclusive consulting services of her sister at a remuneration rate 30% higher than the market price. The third covert action, which was also the action that triggered William's resistance, took place in November 2022, right after the Queen passed away. Camilla had requested the old accounting department of the Duchy of Cornwall to hastily extend Annabel's consulting contract for an additional 5-year term before William completed the administrative office takeover procedures. The purpose of this action was to create a legal shield to retain a stable source of income for her sister, while simultaneously maintaining the presence of the Parker Bowles family inside the heir's fortune. However, William discovered this manoeuvring trick when he requested his independent audit group to review all financial transactions generated within the 6 months prior. The detail that made this entire personnel story unexpected lay in a minor financial clause recorded in the annual report of the Duchy of Cornwall released in July 2024. Instead of dismissing Annabel Elliot with a standard contract termination document accompanied by a compensation sum to save face for the Queen Consort, William chose to publicly disclose the entire amount of money that Camilla's sister had received from the royal family over the past 20 years on the official website of the Duchy. The figures proved Annabel had pocketed a total of more than £1.5 million from private funds, a number that left the British public completely astonished amidst an economic climate facing many difficulties. This financial disclosure detail completely altered the nature of the dismissal, transforming it from a normal personnel reduction decision into a direct attack on the moral credibility of Camilla's family. William did not use accusations or loud arguments behind closed doors. He used the very transparency of the numbers to expose how his father had favoured the Parker Bowles family in the past. Bringing this data into the light stripped Camilla of her right to resist, because any justification from her side at this point would be viewed by public opinion as a defence for siphoning royal assets. This ruthless disclosure poses a big question about Prince William's true purpose when he decided to decimate the financial source of his step-aunt right in the early years of his tenure. Prince William wanted one thing very clearly: to wipe out all traces and influence of the Parker Bowles family from his fortune. He did not accept that the money of the Duchy of Cornwall continued to be used to nourish the private benefit system of his stepmother. William's goal was to establish a transparent financial boundary where the money of the heir to the throne must serve the public and official royal projects, instead of turning into disguised allowances in the form of service fees for Queen Camilla's close associates. The first action proving this goal took place in mid-October 2022 at the central office of the Duchy of Cornwall in London. William requested the Chief Financial Officer to submit all service contracts signed under his father's tenure, after which he manually used a red ink pen to cross out Annabel Elliot's name from the preferred contractor list for real estate projects in the Wiltshire region. The second action appeared in early 2023 at the Royal Holiday Resort in the Scilly Isles. William signed an order to shut down a holiday villa renovation project that Annabel was currently in charge of, while simultaneously transferring the entire supervisory work to an independent architecture firm selected through a public bidding process. The deep reason behind this resolve of William originated from painful childhood memories at Kensington Palace during the 1990s. He had witnessed his mother, Princess Diana, having to cry in her bedroom upon discovering the ambiguous expenditures that Charles dedicated to Camilla under the guise of hunting, trips or private gifts. The resentment accumulated over many years caused William to always view the presence of the Parker Bowles family within the royal financial apparatus as a direct insult to his mother's soul. Pressure from the responsibility to protect the survival of the dynasty in the new era further pushed the 40-year-old prince to resort to iron discipline, eliminating every risk of financial scandal that could harm the crown he will inherit in the future. On the other side of the corridor of power at Buckingham Palace, Queen Camilla was frantically pursuing a completely opposite goal, maintaining and consolidating her family's network of influence inside the palace. She wanted to ensure that her children and sister would have a solid financial footing and receive royal privileges even when King Charles III was no longer on the throne. Camilla understood that her title of Queen Consort was something with a time limit, and if she did not establish a firm standing in the administrative apparatus right from now, her family would immediately be sidelined from upper-class society as soon as William ascended the throne. Camilla proved this ambition through two specific actions taking place in 2023. The first action was her demanding her private chief of staff to arrange for her son, Tom Parker Bowles, to appear in the capacity of menu supervisor for a number of large royal diplomatic banquets to generate commercial reputation. The second action took place in the autumn of that year at Buckingham Palace, when Camilla tried to persuade King Charles III to sign an additional appointment decree permitting her family members the right to use a number of official apartments at the Windsor estate under the guise of honorary assistance to the king. Camilla's goal conflicted directly with William because it broke the rules of discipline and transparency that the prince was trying to build for the future reign. Camilla viewed royal privileges and cash flows as a worthy reward for the years she had to endure the blows of public opinion to accompany Charles. The craving for orthodox recognition from the past to the present pushed Camilla into a position of continuously finding ways to maneuver her personnel into positions yielding income from public funds. She did not want her sister to be dismissed like an ordinary employee, because that was synonymous with William publicly declaring that the Parker Bowles family had no standing in the new power system. The first head-on collision moment between these two currents of will broke out on the evening of November 12, 2023, at the small dining room of the Sandringham estate. That day was a normal family evening, but the atmosphere became suffocating when Camilla proactively placed the redesign file for the Cornwall Duchy holiday cottages onto the dining table in front of William. She suggested the prince should reconsider the decision to suspend Annabel Elliot's contract, while simultaneously emphasizing that her sister had 20 years of work experience and altering personnel at this time would cause unnecessary disruptions to the project's progress. William did not touch his stepmother's file at all, but slowly placed his knife and fork down on the porcelain plate, creating a dry sound cutting across Camilla's words. He looked straight into the Queen's eyes and answered in a cold voice that all decisions at the Duchy of Cornwall now belonged to the supreme authority of the Duke, and the new financial standards did not permit maintaining contracts without bidding. Charles, sitting at the head of the table, tried to smooth over the situation by saying that Annabel was family and there should be an exception, but William immediately stood up, bowed his head to greet his father, and stepped out of the dining room without offering any concession. The direct consequence of the clash at Sandringham was a complete fracture in the communication relationship between the office of the Prince of Wales and the office of the Queen. Camilla realised that clever words or the protection of the king no longer held weight against Diana's eldest son. This collision pushed both sides into a state of strict precaution, turning each subsequent royal event into an underground arena where economic power and administrative titles clashed directly. Recognising that Camilla was finding ways to use the king's influence to interfere in the management apparatus, Prince William made an irreversible decision in early 2024. He decided to approve the publication of all payments to Annabel Elliot in the annual financial reports of the Duchy of Cornwall onto the public data system of the British government. This was a ruthless and decisive step, because once the numbers regarding the amount of £1.5 million were brought into the light, no one, including King Charles III, could use personal power to reverse the dismissal decision without facing outrage from the public. This decision completely changed the dynamic of the war for the throne, completely stripping away the confidentiality weapon that Camilla had always used to shield her family for 2 decades. It forced the entire royal system to operate according to William's rules of the game, where economic transparency became a fortress blocking all privileges borrowed from marriage. This financial disclosure acted like a razor-sharp proclamation that William was ready to enter a phase of direct confrontation to protect his mother's legacy, pushing Camilla into a completely passive stance when all her next moves lay under the surveillance of public opinion. After having her financial source cut off at Cornwall, what escalating actions will Queen Camilla execute to retaliate against this ruthless isolation right in the subsequent family events? December 2024, the traditional Christmas celebration at the Sandringham estate became the first public arena for this confrontation. Queen Camilla arbitrarily signed to add her stepson, Tom Parker Bowles, and his entire family to the official guest list at the Sandringham Big House. This was an action unprecedented in precedent because, according to strict regulations since the time of Queen Elizabeth II, the Christmas dinner party at Sandringham was reserved exclusively for those carrying royal blood and official members of the dynasty. Camilla wanted to use her son's presence right at the central dinner table to declare to the entire palace that the Parker Bowles family currently possessed status on par with the princes. When the guest list was sent to the Kensington Palace office on December 15, 2024, Prince William immediately delivered his answer with a direct boycott action. Instead of arriving at Sandringham on time to attend the evening banquet with his father and stepmother, William ordered his entire private security detail to turn the cars around, leading his wife and children straight to the Anmer Hall villa a few miles away. The absence of the heir to the throne's entire family at the main dinner table created a suffocating atmosphere enveloping the entire Sandringham estate. The diplomatic officials and courtiers present that evening all noticed the confusion clearly showing on the face of King Charles III as he had to sit dining with his wife's stepchildren while his biological son refused to step through the door. This boycott action by William sent a razor-sharp message that he was ready to break family protocols to block all efforts to normalize the presence of the Parker Bowles family inside official, orthodox royal spaces, pushing the relationship between the palace's 2 most powerful offices into a phase of complete freezing before more direct collisions broke out at subsequent diplomatic events. The incident at Sandringham had not yet settled down when a new, diplomatically more severe point of impact erupted in September 2025 at Windsor Castle. During the grand banquet hosting international leaders, Queen Camilla took an action demonstrating supreme power right before dozens of press camera lenses. Upon seeing Princess Catherine standing chatting intimately with Melania Trump in the main hall, Camilla marched over, used her hand to forcefully shove Catherine's shoulder, and ordered her to leave the diplomatic reception area to clear space for her. This brutal action was not only a direct humiliation toward the future Queen Consort in front of international guests, but it was also Camilla's warning that she remained the most powerful woman in the palace at the present moment, and no one was permitted to bypass her in foreign relations activities. Camilla's shoulder-shoving action at Windsor Castle triggered an ultimate fury from Prince William, who always protected his wife against all pressures from the harem. The very next morning, September 18, 2025, William requested an emergency meeting with the financial directors of the Privy Purse, Royal Private Funds. He began applying strict control measures over all supplementary expenditures of King Charles III, including reviewing the funding streams backing Camilla's personal social activities. An unexpected detail appeared during this audit process when William's group discovered a hidden bank account in the suburbs of London, where Camilla's office had silently extracted over £200,000 from the Palace Maintenance Fund to pay for her daughter's private vacations. Holding this non-compliant financial evidence permitted William to establish a tightening encirclement around his stepmother's economic activities, completely stripping her of self-determination over the royal family's supplementary budget sources and pushing Camilla into a passive stance before he unleashed his final, deciding blow. The peak of the confrontation erupted in early 2026, when King Charles III's incurable illness began to take a turn for the worse, causing him to undergo long-term treatment at the London Clinic Hospital. In a late afternoon in his private hospital room, noticing his health declining and fearing for his wife's future, King Charles III grasped William's hand and offered a final plea that his son promised to protect Camilla's rights and status after he passed away. Before the plea of his father lying on his hospital bed, William did not offer any promises, but only fired back with a prolonged, ruthless silence, a silence signifying his refusal to concede to the calculations of the old generation. Right after that meeting, William immediately accelerated the process of purging personnel across the entire palace system to prepare for taking over the throne. He signed orders to dismiss 3 long-time advisors who were loyal to Camilla and replaced them with 2 of his close friends since youth, Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Van Cutsum, into vital management positions at royal estates. The pace of the purge unfolded rapidly. Every crucial position shifted. Camilla's relatives were pushed out, consulting contracts were cancelled, safe lock codes were revoked, car usage rights were limited, private secretaries were transferred away, cash flows were completely frozen. Camilla stood watching in helplessness. No one dared disobey William's orders. The hospitalized king knew nothing. The palace shifted to its new master. All old privileges vanished cleanly. The Parker Bowles family was isolated. The old system collapsed completely. Economic power at this moment rested securely in the hands of the young prince, as the entire old administrative system was neutralized within the span of just 1 week. The direct consequence of this sequence of actions was that Prince William officially held legal ownership over the future of the 2 estates, Balmoral and Sandringham, which were private assets at the disposal of the head of the Windsor bloodline, rather than belonging to the state. This meant that, legally speaking, the moment King Charles III closed his eyes and passed away, Queen Camilla would no longer possess any residence rights at all major royal mansions without written permission from Prince William. The 40-year-old prince now held complete possession over the life and future post-reign fate of his stepmother, pushing Camilla into an unprecedented crisis situation when the administrative power of the Queen Consort title was completely helpless before the private property ownership rights of the legitimate heir. As the supreme power of the British dynasty was about to transfer completely to the new generation, Queen Camilla only then realized she had made a deadly mistake in the past by underestimating the resolve of the eldest son, Princess Diana, left behind. Queen Camilla currently spends most of her time at Ray Mill House, her private red brick home in the Wiltshire region, far away from the busy corridors of Buckingham Palace. Her public appearance schedules have decreased noticeably, participating only in mandatory ceremonial receptions. She no longer makes requests to review the private jewellery archives of previous generations or interferes in the projects of the Duchy of Cornwall. The safe bearing the cipher QM at Windsor Castle has now changed to a new lock code, and access rights belong to a group of curators designated by the family council. Camilla maintains absolute silence when facing questions from old retinue members regarding Queen Mother Elizabeth's gemstone collection. All her privileges currently rely merely on the title of King's wife, completely dependent upon Prince William's future goodwill, while King Charles III is facing a prolonged, incurable illness. Prince William and Princess Catherine continue to execute patronage activities for medical and educational funds, with a firmer standing in the hearts of the public at Kensington Palace. The Guardian brooch is currently kept in Catherine's private, secure cabinet, accompanied by the entirety of civil inheritance verification paperwork from the 2002 codicil. William has finalised the personnel purge across the entire management system of the Duchy of Cornwall and major estates, replacing them with close friends since his youth, Harry Aubrey Fletcher and William Van Cutsum. Catherine does not offer any statements regarding the origin of the jewellery pieces, but she utilises them in events of a national character to affirm orthodox inheritance rights. Princess Alexandra, at the age of 88, barely appears at major diplomatic events anymore and lives quietly at the Thatched House Lodge residence in Richmond Park, refusing all interviews from royal biographers regarding the night meeting at Clarence House. The act of dismissing the Parker Bowles family members and the appearance of the secret codicil after more than 20 years of freezing open big questions about the financial control boundaries inside the British royal family. Politically speaking, does Prince William's use of private property ownership rights over the two estates, Balmoral and Sandringham, degrade the administrative prestige of the reigning king? When a future king can use civil law to strip away his stepmother's residence rights right after his father lies down, is the royal system operating based on cold economic arrangements instead of traditional family rituals? Morally speaking, the story poses a big question mark regarding the price to pay for trading a life of freedom in exchange for noble yet highly volatile titles. Camilla accepted selling Ray Mill House, the only home truly owned by her, to step onto the Queen Consort throne beside Charles. Did she foresee that when Charles is no longer there, that title will become helpless before the economic life and death power of the son Princess Diana left behind? Do other velvet boxes bearing the cipher QM, currently resting deep inside the secure safes of the palace, contain any other handwritten letters powerful enough to alter the successor's situation? And will William treat Camilla with minimal respect or push her into exile right in the very royal home she once took pains to occupy? Do you think Prince William blocking all financial resources of Camilla's family is an action to reclaim justice for his late mother, or is it too ruthless a purge toward a reigning queen consort? Please leave your opinion in the comments section below. Hit the channel subscription button to continue following the latest developments and the underground power battles of the global elite.